Hello, Gavin here, welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at the song you co-wrote with me on Instagram. Recently, I put out a story on Instagram asking you to co-write a song with me. And I did this through a series of stories, asking questions, polls, things like that, and gathered up some information that I could then turn into a song. And today we're going to look at how I took that information, turned into the song that you're going to hear at the end of today's video. So first up, what were the questions I asked you? Well, the first one was to pick the key. So that was in the form of two questions. One, pick a letter, A to G, and pick major or minor. And you complicated folks picked F minor. So keeping it nice and simple right off the bat. Thankfully, you were a little bit kinder on the next question, which was which time signature should we use? And for that one you picked 4/4. Now I will admit I kept it quite simple. We've kept it to 3/4 or 4/4, and you picked 4/4. And I'll be honest, with the key signature I could have gone a little bit more complicated as well, including things like flats and sharps, but we kept it really simple so it can just show you the process in its simplest form and how it doesn't take a lot of music theory knowledge to write a really good song. But with that said, the next question was, do you want simple chords, so triads, just your standard A minor, B minor, things like that, major chords as well obviously, or do you want fancy chords? I will say this is one of the few things I get to pick just to keep things simple, so if you'd picked the fancy version of the chords, I get to pick whether it's an add 9, whether it's a 10th chord, whether we're using 13ths, 7ths, things like that. That's all at my discretion. And thankfully you actually picked the fancy chords. Now next up I asked you for a chord progression. Now this is the first one that I would say was more difficult to understand if you don't know theory, but even the theory behind it is very simple. And for this I asked you to pick 4 numbers between 1 and 7. Now there's absolutely nothing complicated to this, believe it or not. This is just the numbers from the scale. So for instance, you've chosen F minor. Now in the F minor scale, there are 7 notes, and those 7 notes have a chord associated to them. So all I've asked you to do is pick 4 numbers from that scale, and whatever those 4 numbers are, they'll tell me what the chord should be. And those numbers that you chose were 5, 3, 7 and 2. Those were the most common numbers to come up for each of the 4 options. Now, number 5 is the 5th chord of that scale, which is a C minor. 3, which is the 3rd chord of the scale, which is A flat major. Then we've got the 7, which is the 7th chord of the scale, which is E flat major. And we've got the 2nd, which is the 2nd chord of the scale, which is G diminished. Now, for each of these, I get to pick the fancy version. So to start with, I've chosen just to go with the 7ths. So it would be C minor 7, A flat major 7, E flat 7, and G minor 7 flat 5. Or G half diminished, whatever you want to call it. Now I will admit the song has already been written at this point. I'm shooting this after the fact so I can give you the information I actually used. And for the chords, I did stick quite closely to the 7ths. I did play the A flat major 7, and I did play a C minor 7 as standard. The E flat 7 and the G minor 7 flat 5, I didn't include all of the notes from the chords in the chords I played. But with the bass lines, I did make sure to include all of those notes, so when the chords and the bass line combine, you hear that chord represented fully. And on the G minor 7 flat 5, I did also include the 11th, because I kind of liked the vibe it was providing. And if you're listening to this going, whoa, I don't understand anything you're saying right now, don't worry. because this is all theory that can be learnt quite simply. There's nothing crazy going on here. It just sounds like a foreign language the first time you hear it. So if you don't understand some of the theory that's being discussed, don't worry about it. You can find great resources online, whether it be YouTube videos, books, and you can also study with a good teacher. And shameless plug, I do actually teach guitar, bass, and dedicated music theory lessons over Zoom. So if you want to learn this stuff in a little bit more detail and figure out how you can write using these tools, please get in touch and we can sort out some lessons. But that's the end of the shameless plug. Back to the song. Now there's one more thing we need to discuss, and that's the melody. Now, I had so many responses, and there was quite a few really good melodies within there. So I narrowed it down to the two most common options. So again, I actually gave you the option of picking as many notes as you wanted this time, but the most common was still 4. So I've taken the two most common patterns of those 4 notes. So that's 7, 4, 5, 7 and 6, 2, 7, 2. Now again, these are just the notes from the scale. So we're just using the F minor scale, and I'm limited to using the pattern of 7, 4, 5, 7 from within the scale, and I'm limited to using the pattern 6, 2, 7, 2 within the scale. So those are both patterns that I can use any point as the melodies within this song. Now, what I have left totally up to me with everything really, whether it be the chords, the bass line, and with the melodies, is the timing. Yes, it has to be within 4/4, but I'm creating something interesting just using the information you've given me. So for the melodies, the rule is I can't use any different notes. So it has to be those notes and it has to be in that order. But I can use that note multiple times before changing to the next melody note. So for instance, I could play 7, 7, 7, 4, 5, 7 because I'm not changed to the 4 yet. I have flexibility with how many of that note I play before I change to the next melody note. So that's the only things I'm in control of here. And I found that actually I had, combining these two melody lines, I had a really nice verse melody, and then I also had an alternative melody for later in the song, which I thought was really cool. I really enjoyed that. And I feel like that second one's a good example of how you can use the same information to get a totally different feel. So in conclusion, how do I feel this went? Well, as an experiment, I thought it was really cool. I really enjoyed working with the information you gave me. And I have to say as well, thank you so much for so many of you getting involved. It made it a really fun process and was a really fun project. And that's not possible without you. So thank you so much for getting involved. I really appreciate the responses from everybody. And as a song, I actually think it came out really well. I really liked the song. It was also interesting making myself work within these parameters so that I was writing something totally in line with what you asked for. So I couldn't change things. I had to just make things work. And for me, that's another cool thing with this. If you've got these set parameters, these limitations can actually be a really good creative tool because it forces you to do things you maybe wouldn't have done prior. So whether you're just getting into songwriting and you're using these types of processes as a writing tool just to get you started, which is a really cool thing to do, or whether you're using it when you're just stuck. Sometimes you're just stuck for ideas, the creative juices are not flowing, and you're just got nothing. There's a lot of times I come up with nothing and I'm having a hard time writing something. Things like this can be a great tool to get you out of that slump and totally back on track writing fun music and writing exciting music. So hopefully you've enjoyed this, and I hope it inspires you to maybe get involved in writing music, giving this a go, figuring out how to do these things, and just having fun with it. Because at the end of the day, that's what music's about. It's about having fun, and I had a blast doing this. So I think it's about time we play this song. So I'll put a link in the description if you want to download it, but I'm going to play it at the end of this video as well. So I hope you enjoy the song. Please let me know in the comments what you thought about this concept. If you've got any ideas for future challenges we could try, because I'm open to any suggestions like that. Thanks again to everybody that got involved. I couldn't have done this without you, so thank you so much for that. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe down below, clicking the bell icon to be notified of more content when it comes out. And until next time, keep working on those bass faces.